My name is Jack Freudenheim. I'm part of the TARA's Triple Excellence team. Some of you have seen me before, and we're so happy to have you all here. And all of us are so excited to meet with Heidi, and so pleased that she is willing to meet with us to talk about her 3-year retreat. I'm going to start with just a very quick introduction. Some of you may be newer and don't know Heidi or perhaps don't know her role. So I'll just, in very brief terms, Heidi has been a student of Tibetan Buddhism for quite a long time and has been a student of Chogyam Rinpoche for quite some time, learned Tibetan, and has translated both books and translated for teachers such as Chogyam Rinpoche and Drupon Lama Tenzin Sangpo. And we all know her especially as the editor-in-chief and basically writer of the contemplations for the TARA's Triple Excellence, which I assume most, if not all of you, have started or are currently participating in. And so then 3 years ago entered into 3-year retreat. So recently came out. So Heidi, thank you so much for meeting with us. I'll give you a chance to say hello.
Thank you, Jack, for introducing me. Thank you all for being here. It's so wonderful to see you. So nice to see you all happy and healthy. And yeah, so
Great.
let's see if I can say anything about the 3 years retreat today.
Great, good. So we have some wonderful questions that people have submitted, and we thought we'd just start with a couple basic sort of general questions to start. Heidi, if you could tell us just what is a 3-year retreat? And is there kind of a history of 3-year retreat and in this lineage especially?
Well, I think the 3-year retreat concept has really become institutionalized with Gomde, the student of Milarepa, and very much, I think, in the Kagyu school. But then later it was really revived by the Rime movement, the Jamin Khyentse Wangpo and Kontelode Thaya and so forth. And what I can say, it's a really fantastic invention of Tibetan Buddhism. It's so beneficial to have 3 years of your life to dedicate it exclusively to practice. And I think in our tradition, in the Nyingma tradition, and especially in Nyingma and Kagyu, it's a really very, very strong tradition to do a 3 years retreat. So you study and then you go into 3 years retreat as a lama or as a monk or a nun. We can see that happening in our monastery. I think also, of course, in the past, we could see many, many masters, many yogis doing their own retreat. It doesn't necessarily had to be a 3 years retreat, maybe it was longer. In France, I hear that there are many also doing their whole life retreats. So in France, it's quite interesting. There's this whole tradition here for long retreats, quite established also. So that's a wonderful thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And is there, from your experience now, would you say a difference between a group 3-year retreat like this versus solitary retreat? Maybe you could give us a sense of what happens in a retreat, because most of us don't have no idea.
Well, I think whether or not a group retreat or a solitary retreat is good for you is really very dependent on your own inclination capacity. So it's so important to always get advice from your teacher, what is best for you. Generally speaking, I think for a beginner, I think it's much more advisable to attend a group retreat because you get support, you get help, you have a Sangha there. The most amazing thing is that you have the teachers coming, you have Rinpoche there coming to give you empowerments, teachings, you have Lama Tenzin there, Tupen Lama Tenzin to guide you. And we had other fantastic teachers come. I will explain more about that. So that's really the positive side of a group retreat. Maybe the more difficult side of a group retreat, that you may be stuck with people for 3 years that you don't like so much. So then you can work, you have to work a lot with your own shadows, with your own negative traits. And if you're willing to do that, yes, I think it's a fantastic thing, a group retreat. A solitary retreat also has its benefits. I think because you're really very secluded and have no interaction with, no distractions as such. So I think we can also see many masters in the past that did solitary retreat, or many yogis. But as a beginner, I would definitely advise to do a group retreat because it's so supportive, so helpful. And as for the general structure, did you ask about this, Jack?
Yes, I'd love to hear
Mm-hmm.
what is the daily schedule, if you could tell us, and how did it perhaps change over the 3 years?
Yeah. So it is quite tough. It's really like people think we're in retreat. It's quite a tough schedule. Getting up at 3:45, doing your wake-up practice, which is much longer than the wake-up practice than we do in the Tower program. And then there is at 4:30 we start with our actual program, our actual main part, main session. And it goes at least till 6:37. And then there is side practices that you didn't have to do them, but many of us, most of us actually did. Like, for instance, we did, of course, sung smoke offerings, sur offerings, white and red sur. And then we also did, a practice I really came to love so much. It's called water offerings, where you make water offerings to the pretas, to the local spirits, to the hungry ghosts. And since Rinpoche said that here in this area that there are lots of spirits who are starving, I feel this kind of duty to continue with this practice. So a lot of beautiful practices. And then you have breakfast, and then you have not long time until the next session starts. It's at 9. That goes nearly to 12. And then you have a 2-hour break. I mean, you have lunch, you have 2-hour break, and then from 2 to 5 or 5:15, the next session continues, where you do also protectors and also the red sur. And then you have from 6:30 till 7:30 dinner, and then from 7:30 till 8:30 the last session. And then there's still a sleeping practice, and some did chew after that. But it's probably it's very advisable to go to bed quite soon after that, not to be too tired. I made often that mistake to kind of do things still afterwards, and that wasn't so smart. Because then you get really tired. Mm-hmm.
Is it a silent retreat among the retreatants, or are you talking with each other?
Yeah. Some chose to be silent. One person chose to be silent the whole retreat. Didn't say a word the whole retreat. It's very impressive. Some went like for a couple of months, some for a year. So it really depends on yourself. Like how sometimes it's really nice also to speak to others, to get advice, to talk about your difficulties. So it's good to. And for the practices that we did, we started out with, as you know, there's the 3 months pre-retreat where we did Vajrasattva. 100,000 Vajrasattva mantras as purification, and every day the Vajrasattva sadhana. And that is still kind of open, so people prepared the rooms at the same time, and kind of ordered things for like cupboards or carpets and stuff like that. And this year, I saw in Gomde Pyrenees, we offer that possibility for people to join from all over the world for that 3 months pre-purification for the 3 years retreat. So it's a really great opportunity to take part in that. You can either come here to do it, or you can also do it online. And after that, then Rinpoche came and put us in retreat, and it started with a fire puja. And then we did about a couple of months of Vajrakilaya retreat. That is to dispel all the obstacles for the retreat. And then we did the long contemplations of the four mind changings. I think it was, I forgot how long, because time kind of starts to disappear in the retreat. So I have a little difficulty on time now with time as such. And so a long time for the four mind changings, because Lama Tenzin really thought that this is the most important for us to if you assimilate and really integrate them in your heart, then of course the rest will go by itself. And then we did, after that, we started the preliminaries, the 5 times, or was it 6 times 100,000 preliminaries, which was also wonderful, of the Kunsamtutika practice. And having completed that, we took a little longer because postrations was really difficult for us, for some of us. My knees were so, I had so much pain in my knees. I even bought these special things for I guess many of you in the Tower Triple Excellence are doing the postrations also. So I guess, you have experience with doing them. But I bought this, like when you do skateboarding, that you have these special things for the
knee
knees,
pads,
but knee pads, but it didn't help so much. So that was a bit difficult, but otherwise it was really nice doing the Konstantuti preliminaries. And after that we started, then you go into Guru, Yidam, and Dakini practices, and the Guru practice was for us a 35-day Tiliningpo retreat. And after that we did the Yidam was for us Konstantuktik, so that we did many, many, many months Konstantuktik sadhana. So that was really wonderful, because that was the main practice of Tukur, and it's the main practice of our lineage. So it became kind of the main practice of our retreat, the Konsam Tutik. And then after that, we did I think it was the Kwawa Dongduk or the Sangwa now. I think it's the Kwawa Dongduk. It's a very small, very beautiful red Chandrisik Avalokiteshvara Sadhana, and that I felt totally in love with. It's so beautiful for generating and developing compassion for the whole world. So it's really nice. And after that comes the secret Dakini practice. So then we were so fortunate to have Tulku come, Tulku Pasang Tsering with another Kempo to teach us a Tumu practice, the Blue Achala Tumu practice, that we also practiced for maybe altogether, maybe was it 2 months. And then we started the Kunsang Tuktik, the inner and secret practices of the Kunsang Tuktik, of the Trekchu and Kodorushan, the practices that we usually do in the 3 months retreat here in Gomde Pyrenees, but much longer. So that was really wonderful. I just thoroughly enjoyed that. And in the end, then Rinpoche came and opened the retreat, and then we did I think it was 2 or 3 fire pujas, I forgot, but it ends again with fire pujas to kind of clear all the mistakes that we may have done. So that is more or less a brief overview of what we did.
Wow, thank you. It's so wonderful. It's hard to imagine, but it's really great to hear that
It's a
whole
lot to do.
arc.
So you have to make sure not to get lost in doing, because in the beginning, I think many of us, we felt really, how will we get this enumeration done, like all these numbers, like you get kind of a little bit, perhaps even stressed. And that is also not, of course, so helpful if you get stressed in retreat. So you need to find a kind of balance. And there's a really beautiful teaching by one, I think, Western Geluk Nan, just in 2 pages, that I would advise everyone to read who does retreat. I don't have the name now, but I think in the future I can share it.
Oh, good. Maybe we can share that. Okay, thank you. Well, I want to move on to the questions that people have submitted, but I think that was a great preliminary. The first one is what is your advice about integrating practice in daily life?
Well, we were so fortunate in the beginning that we had Lama Tenzin. He invited a really old Khenpo from Tibet. His name is Kyabje Khenpo. He has also advised us, for instance, in the Triple Excellence Terma. And he's a teacher of Lama Tenzin. He is really super knowledgeable, and he is a good practitioner also. So he came and taught for 1.5 months every day. He has a really strong dialect, so it was so difficult for me to understand him. Sometimes I felt like a complete beginner. But Lama Tenzin was hoping he would instruct us in the teachings, in the kind of development stage teachings, the sadhana and so forth. But he was every day more or less saying the same thing. Every day he repeated himself over and over again, saying that first of all, that the most important is that we really give up the 10 negative deeds, any kind of unwholesome action. So what Rinpoche always, Chogyam Rinpoche always stresses also, because there's no point in being a Dharma practitioner if you continue to do negative stuff. Yeah, forget about being a retreatant. And then also what he did, he said one thing that stayed with me in the whole retreat, and I think that is so helpful for everyone to hear, is that don't allow any time for ordinariness, meaning don't let any moment be ordinary. So kind of practice all the time, be aware all the time. Um, that it can mean, that you never separate from the notion that everything is an illusion, or you practice compassion, whatever it may be, but don't get lost in ordinariness, that you're just like an ordinary person. And that really stayed with me the whole retreat, in the breaks, and just to be 100% mindful. Of course, I wasn't able to completely follow through, otherwise I would be probably flying in the air now. But it's really was such a beautiful advice, and I think this is something that we can also take into practice in our daily life. And then there's another teaching that really stayed with me, that he stressed, and that was always practice this is a mind training teaching, and originating from Atisha. Always practice the three objects. Practice with the three objects, the three poisons and the three virtues. So meaning that whenever any kind of negative thought would appear, then I would, not, yeah, then I would remind myself of this teaching, and think that by myself now feeling anger or feeling upset, may I take all the upsetness, all the anger of all sentient beings upon myself, so that they may not experience it. So really have that wish from the core of your heart. And you can do the same with desire, with jealousy, with envy, with feeling let down, with all kinds of emotions. And actually, then you have a lot of opportunity to practice. And also, you can do it with indifference. For instance, I think something that I noticed in retreats, like sometimes one day was so fantastic, the next day was like I felt like a potato. So the next day I felt again good. But it's a kind of indifference, neutral feeling that happens, and that also you have to work with. Sometimes when we feel so exhausted, we don't feel like doing anything, or just like maybe serving like these days, like one serves the net, or whatever one likes to do. And but that one also takes that a moment of indifference upon oneself, that one makes the strong aspiration prayer. By me feeling in that way, may all sentient beings be free from the obliviousness, from the feeling of indifference, so that they don't have to experience it. And when you feel like really good and everything goes just so well that you immediately share it with others, immediately give it away, offer it so that they have, all sentient beings have happiness and joy. So I think that was so helpful for me, and I really practiced this very good, at least for 1.5 years. Not that I then stopped practicing, but then the emphasis got a little bit on more on understanding also the kind of equality of all thoughts.
Mm,
But I think in that way, actually, all our negative traits, all our negative thoughts become an opportunity to turn it into virtue, into really strong virtue. And especially now in this world, I mean, it's a bit of a shock to come out and to be see all these wars and all this pain and all these crazy politicians in the world, um, to um, to change it, to see that actually it's also my responsibility to change it,
mm.
through tolerance, through not just get upset about it, but it's our karma, it's our karma that we experience that right now, and not become the victim of it, and really take responsibility and change it by means of these kind of trainings. I think there's so much more, so much we can actually do as practitioners to influence the state of affairs in this world with our practice, and I think we underestimate that.
That's wonderful, wonderful
Oh, maybe
advice.
there's just
Yeah.
one story he told, because Kempo was so fantastic, if I may share that with you. Um, so then there's one story he always repeated, and that was the story he said that imagine when Siddhartha, when in his first life, when he became a bodhisattva, he was down in hell. He was reborn as a hell being, and he was pulling a really really heavy chariot, and he was pulling it with somebody else. And then imagine now vividly being him, and then making as this sincere wish that may I pull it myself so that my friend does not experience the pain, does not have to undergo it. And then, of course, when he wished that from the core of his heart, he was reborn in the higher realms.
Mhm.
He was freed from hell. But then Kempula said, now imagine if your friend is actually quite not a nice guy. He just pretends not to not to be able to pull the chariot. He just is lazy. He's idle. He doesn't care. Can you still do that then? Can you still make that wish that may I only take the pain upon myself? May I only pull the chariot? And then he said, then now apply it to the retreat, because, in the retreat, often you're supposed to help each other. You have to do a lot of work together. And of course, not everybody is equal. So will you then be able to actually do the work for someone else without feeling upset? This kind of things. He was training us in a lot. And he said, our job in retreat, and I think that's also our job, also out of retreat, is not to judge others, but only to look at our own mind.
Yeah.
So our responsibility and job, he said, in retreat is, it's no business. It's not your business what other people are doing. It's only your only business is your own mind. So I think that was extremely helpful to have his guidance there and his teachings, and having it repeated every day was very helpful. And he also stressed that it's not so extremely important to, like, of course, accumulations and enumerations and getting it done is very important, but it's so much more important that you have this transformation of mind, that each thought like I mentioned before, that when you have a negative thought, that it becomes an opportunity for virtue, for doing good in this world. Yeah. So it was really
Wow.
wonderful.
That's so great. It's great to hear what your experience of that was like. Hearing it over and over, we tend to just hear something once and think, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
So
But we need
that's
to hear it so many
yeah,
times.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Okay, here someone asked, what was the hardest part of the retreat for you, and what were perhaps, excuse me, the biggest challenges in your retreat? How did you overcome them?
I think the biggest thing was definitely when my mom got so sick. That was very painful, not being there. Yeah, and so that was difficult. Other difficulties I didn't have. I think difficulties was a little bit more like I did one mistake in the middle of the retreat that I exercised too little, because you have so much to do and then you don't want to like do some physical exercises, but actually it's so important in retreat.
Mm,
So then my health was for some time not so good. Um, so that was what it was a bit difficult. Well, then yeah, some difficulties. I just was some organizational problems that I had, but otherwise I didn't have that. Besides my mom, that was very difficult, but otherwise, I didn't really have that many difficulties. Of
yeah.
course, besides my own mind.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, someone asked, what difficulties are you facing now as you try to integrate what you learned and accomplished into your daily life outside of retreat? Did you feel initially disconnected from non-Buddhist people and mundane affairs?
Um, I wouldn't say disconnected, no, because actually what happens through more practice, you feel more connected. Like you feel more connected to the entire world. Like if there's a war, a pain somewhere going on, you feel so much more like, oh, it's like very hard to even look at it, hear about it, and it's just so difficult. So you feel definitely, it was quite easy for me to immediately connect with people and just behave very normally. So people were kind of surprised. Um, so I think that wasn't difficult. What was more is maybe more difficult is that um, is seeing suffering in this whole world that
Yeah.
is like so painful, and seeing how the what the world is moving toward. That is quite difficult. Mm. But I think what like if you are doing a 3 years retreat, I think for the next 3 years retreat, I want to make sure that they have a more smooth going out of the retreat. I think for in Asura, when the monks come out, they have one day of like where everybody, like how it was here, the family comes, everybody comes and welcomes them, and then they go back. Then they go back into, at least for a month, into their kind of
Oh,
retreat room and are quite private still, but slowly get accustomed to coming out. And for me, it was a bit too
mm,
abrupt. And I
yeah.
think I'm sure for others also. So I think it's really good if you count in 1 month of staying here, of that we have still helpers who help you, because that was a bit like a kind of, what do you say, jumping into cold water.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was also okay. I mean, it just passes, and then I think I went soon to see my parents, which was really nice, wonderful. And and now I think I'm still now in my retreat house, so it's a little bit still like I'm in retreat.
Mm,
I
oh,
just
nice.
now work much more on triple excellence. And in the beginning, it was like, even though Gomde is so close, I hardly went there because I'm so used to being alone.
Yeah.
And but now I'm translating down there, so I'm getting used more to be with people. But it's not that it's difficult for me to be with people. It's not like that. I
Oh,
think it's you don't l lose that ability to socialize because we're such social beings, I think, and you
mm,
become in a way more open to everyone, to everything. And of course, that openness also brings about that you feel the kind of pain and futility of things much more. Like, for instance, but this is something that I had already before going into retreat. When I went to Barcelona and I saw the shopping center, I thought, oh, this is just crazy here. It's just really crazy, all these different things and all these material things, and so many of like the same shoes, and also like even shopping is still quite difficult for me. Shopping online is an effort, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So on the
Um,
flip side, what was your biggest, if you'd share with us, sorry, my throat, your biggest insight, if you could name and wish to share it, your biggest insight from 3-year retreat?
um, you know, you're not supposed to really
Okay.
share with
Yeah.
anyone the insights or experiences you have. So all what I can say is that real transformation, change takes time or needs a lot of patience, uh, minute introspection, meaning like really willing to change, to work with the things that you don't like, you know, you think that kind of traits of yourself that you don't like, that you need to shed light on, like your shadows and
Mm.
things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it just, I think it's important to go in when you go into retreat, not to go into it with a lot of hope and fear, not a lot of expectations, because it's just a matter of fact that change, real change is something very slow. Because also what I wanted to mention before, when you asked me about the 3 years retreat, there's a there's a reason for why a 3 years retreat is supposed to take 3 years and 3 months and or 3 weeks. It's because it goes together with the transformation of our inner subtle body.
Mhm.
And so in that way, it is a slow process, because the complete transformation of your inner subtle body also is, as you can see, it takes 3.5, 3 years and more than that, yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Okay, the next question is, what are the key points for actually transforming our stubborn, self-centered habits in a 3-year retreat? And what are the main factors that would prevent genuine transformation in retreat?
Hmm. Well, I think it's like I mentioned before, it's really making sure that you look at your own mind, that you take even negative conditions as a opportunity, like negative thoughts, anger, and everything, as an opportunity to transform, to either practice the 3 virtues, that you take it upon yourself, or the anger of all sentient beings, so that they don't have to experience it. But also, I think it's really important to own your anger. Like what happens in a retreat, because also the retreat mind can become quite claustrophobic, because you will be confronted with your shadows, with your negative traits, until you recognize them and until you actually do away with them. So they will come up again and again and again. And this can be very, very difficult, because unless you recognize that the anger is not in the object, but actually it's your own anger, and you really own it, meaning that you don't blame the other for things like that happen, for instance, like organizational problems, or maybe the helper didn't do a proper job. And then if you don't become the victim, you see, I think that's the real
Mm.
main objective, because the moment you become the victim and blame the harm outside, then you become powerless. You become you give away all your further development, because why this situation has appeared was also because of our own karma. So it's my own doing. So the
Mm.
moment I blame the others for it and I become the victim, I don't change. I don't change anymore, because I think somebody else has the power over me. Somebody else has done that to me. So the main thing I think to recognize and to really to to practice with is to say, no, I'm not the victim. I own my anger. One experiences one's anger fully, like the texture, how it feels, and then either changes it into a virtue, or just looks at the very texture of anger, but not blaming others. I think that's the main
Yeah.
thing, a main danger in retreat, that you begin to, because you just can't handle the situation, because there's so many things that come up, so many negativities that come up, um, your own negativities.
Mm.
Of course, that's our tendency, that we want to blame others. It is just how we are. We are wired. But then the main objective is not to do that. To look at yourself. What I like very much, and what I can recommend to all of you, to read that book. It's called Dreaming Through Darkness. It's by Charlie Murray. He's a Kagyu practitioner, and he teaches also very much deep, uh, how to change deep sleep into luminosity, how to recognize dreams. And he talks a lot about the shadows and the negative traits. So dreaming through darkness is one thing that I would recommend anybody doing a 3 years retreat to read that book. But also when you're outside, I think it can be so helpful to read that, because it really shows you so clearly that there's no point in blaming others, because it's always your own doing.
Yeah.
And also to think like, okay, if there's one person that I feel so irritated by, why is that? There must be some kind of trait in me that I have suppressed, and that's why this person triggers me. And then in
Yeah.
this way, really come to change or to illuminate your negative traits and integrate them in this way. I think is really important, because there's this danger in retreat that you blame others,
Yeah.
because it's just too painful to look at your own shit. Then
Yeah.
there's another book that I really would like to recommend to read that everyone reads it. It's called No Self, No Problem by Chris Niebauer. It's very short, and then I read in retreat like 3 or 4 times, because it was so helpful. It shows also, with the help of neuroscience, that actually there is really no self. The self is an illusion, and how to then relate to it. And that is also very helpful in retreat, because, I mean, as we seasoned Dhamma practitioners know, all our trouble come about because of that self-cherishing attitude. So that was super helpful. Yeah. So I think if one reads those books and really make sure to look at one's own mind and not blames others for one's negativity, then
Mm.
I think everyone will turn out really well.
Well, that's really valuable. And people are posting the names of those books in the chat right now. Maybe they can be future reading group material for
Yeah,
the TT
that would
reading
be
groups.
excellent.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
we get you to come and give a guest talk.
sure. I really love those books. I think
Yeah,
they're so helpful. Yeah.
that's great. Thank you. That's great. And I'm just curious, shadow, I know, is a term maybe considered a Jungian psychology term.
Mhm.
Does that correspond, would you say, to klesha, or is there anything specifically in Tibetan Buddhist teaching that you would say is the equivalent of shadow?
I think when in mind training it is taught to work with the 3 objects of a stranger, of an enemy, of a friend, it's kind of implied in there that you change, you look at the enemy, you contemplate, why is it that I actually name this person an enemy, and then that way you kind of come to recognize that it might be because there's something that you have suppressed in yourself. For instance, anger. If this person is very angry and you want to be a good girl, a good person, a nice person, and you don't allow yourself to feel anger, you get so triggered by somebody who feels angry. who always is angry. So in that way, I think it is negative traits are definitely our obscurations in Buddhism, our clashes. So I think, yeah, it's it's definitely there. And I think the mind training teachings, they are really good about how
Mm,
to transform them. Yeah.
yeah. Here's a probably a quick question. Just someone asked, how did you get used to sleeping less in retreat?
It was very difficult for me. For others, it wasn't so difficult. I think the
Oh.
reason already I mentioned before was because I didn't go so um, I go to bed when I was supposed to go to bed. And then at times I also didn't like some of my friends, they went to bed like before 9. I think then it's quite easy. Yeah. But and then sometimes my health was also not so super, like so good. So what I can really advise anybody if they do a longer retreat, so essential to do a lot of physical exercise also, like
Mm, mhm,
gymnastics, yoga, qigong, and yeah. I mean, you can do every day 100 prostrations also that will keep you fit.
right, right. General, for people interested in doing retreat, can you say when you think is perhaps the best age that one should be for going into a 3-year retreat? And do you have any specific advice for future female retreatants? Was asked.
Um, it's really difficult to say which age is best. Um, I think every age is good. It really depends on yourself. Like if I look back at my life, I would have liked to do a 3 years retreat before already. When I was younger, maybe after I did some of the studies at the Shatter, because it's good after you study that you go into retreat, I think. And that that would have been nice if it would have been my second retreat, second 3 years retreat.
Mm,
So, but I think it's so good to get advice from your teacher and how strongly you feel about it. If you feel very strong about it, doing it, I think any time is good, and it's never too late. I saw a question of somebody that a person is 78 years and wants to do 3 years retreat, and I think it's fantastic. We also had somebody in our retreat who was older, and this person did really well. He was not that like not super healthy, but he did so well. It was very impressive. So I think
mm,
it's never too late, and I think um, just important that you don't go into it with like too strong ambitions, with too many expectations. That's the thing. I think that
right.
can maybe lead you astray. Yeah.
Mm, mhm. Are you thinking of doing a second 3-year retreat?
Of course, I would like to. Right now, not. Right now, my objective is Charitable Excellence. We're working very hard on getting the next modules out. It will happen very soon. So but sooner or later, yes. And I think it's good when that one does every year, like Rinpoche says, 1 month or 3 months retreats is really good.
Mm.
It's very helpful, yeah.
The one question that's been floating around, I think, is or the idea of a triple excellence retreat or a retreat based 3-year retreat based on the Tara Terma. Is there anything you can say about what that might be like, or if there are plans for that?
Yeah, I think that would be something really wonderful and very necessary also, because I think Tara is so important for our times, for these crazy times that we're in now. And so I hope that it will happen in the future. What I can see from when I look at the Tamaru text, that there will be a lot of, so I think the beginning will be quite similar, the mind changings, the Nundro, the preliminaries of Tara that many of you are doing now. and then the outer, inner, and secret sadhana. And then what I can see with the Taratama is there's a lot of pranayama, there's so breathing techniques, nadi practices, tumu practice. So there's a lot more than what we did with the working with the inner subtle body, which I think is actually quite good for our times. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Something for us to look forward to hearing more about. Someone asked, do you feel like a different person than before the retreat? And
Well, we changed every second, so in a way, we are never the same, I think. Um, but I do feel definitely different. I feel very happy having done this 3 years retreat, having like being able to complete it, because I always had this worry that maybe I have to leave because of my parents' health and like that. So I feel really fortunate. And yeah, I think there's definitely, I mean, like, I think what most retreatants say, that there is a kind of this constant chatter, that one usually has. Definitely quiets down during this 3 years retreat.
mm,
That is something quite helpful, I think.
wow, hard, hard to imagine for me.
It's not that it's absent, but it definitely quiets down, and that you can also
Yeah.
see, like, I mean, neuroscience has done a lot of, not a lot, but some research on that and on meditators, and
Mm,
that is, like, even when you do practices like Tonglen or compassion, just there's an immediate quieting down. But I think with the 3 years retreat, it's just it's a longer period, so maybe the effect will last longer. Yeah.
yeah, that's great. Well, here's an easy one. What is it like on the other shore?
On the other shore. Like, I- well, yeah, which shore, first of all, is there another shore? Um, it's difficult to say. I mean, there is one thing that I think is important to stress, is that there's still so much, even though one does this for years of trade, one also is acutely aware of how much work there is still to be done, like, so like, although one may have accomplished something, but it doesn't end there, it continues, and there's so much fine tuning, and so much more, like, yeah, working on, not working, but really, like, the essential practice of Buddhism is to let go, no, really letting go of things, and also in your body, in your body, speech, and mind, and I think that's a constant practice. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. This is a Tara question. It's not specifically about the retreat, but someone is saying they're having some trouble imagining Tara as white light or rainbow light. They can only visualize her as a statue or in the form that's painted on a tanka. And just wondering if you have any technique or suggestion for visualizing Tara as rainbow or white light with no solid form.
Well, any visualization will always, maybe good to keep in mind, will always be not a solid form, because it's a visualization. So I think it's just when you visualize her, and you see her as a statue or as a picture, then just, like, mentally remind yourself that it's an illusion, that it's transparent, that you can see through it. And when it's too kind of like statue-like, in the sense that it doesn't move, or it doesn't, yeah, it's just like immovable, like a statue, then I think it's good that you really imagine that she looks at you with really kind eyes, compassionate eyes, that perhaps even she speaks to you, that you imagine that, and just reminding yourself that even though she may look a little solid, it is not solid, because every imagination cannot be solid. It is just a mental image. And that even the statue, maybe that might be helpful also, and the picture, the Tanka painting itself, is also an illusion. It may look solid, but it is actually, if we would have different faculties, I think we could see that it's actually just a five-colored light, and not nothing solid. It's kind of our misconstruing our faculties, are kind of misapprehending the illusion, the five-colored illusion that is everywhere, as something solid.
Mm.
So I think bringing that more into your life can be very helpful. Or also like looking at a holographic image of Tara maybe is also helpful
Oh, yeah.
to learn to see it more transparent.
Thank you. That's great advice. Someone asked about shamatha. Was there's any specific shamatha practice or teachings on it during Nundro or the sadhana work? And was special time set aside just for shamatha practice?
Well, according to Lama Tenzin, all the development stage practices are kind of shamatha, belong to shamatha, because you're reciting, you're visualizing, you're reciting mantras, so you keep your mind in a state of concentration, which shamatha actually is, a kind of concentrating on a virtuous object. So that would classify as shamatha, but no, otherwise, like that kind of training in shamatha that that I think they do very much in the Kagyu school is not so much emphasized in our in the Nyingma tradition here.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say, as we're getting closer to the top of the hour, but if you're willing to go a few minutes extra, Heidi, we have a few questions. Okay, thank you. And just in case anyone has to leave, I just want to throw out there that if anyone would like to offer Dana, an offering to Heidi, it's most appreciated. And I think we'll just paste, there's a PayPal link that can do that if you want, totally voluntary and much appreciated. Let's see. Yes.
Oh yeah, just to get my dog in.
Oh,
He
okay,
wants to
good.
come.
Sure.
No.
Okay, just a shamatha follow up. Someone asked just whether, and maybe this wasn't talked about so explicitly, but someone asked about the first dhyana helping with vipassana and sadhana. Did the attainment of deep attentional stability remain, was it attained in some ways or feel like still a distant goal during the course of the retreat?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't be allowed to answer the question if it.
Oh, okay.
So if there's any attainment or any achievement or any really experience, you're not
Sure.
supposed to share that.
Yeah.
But in brief, as mentioned before, I think there's not really very much emphasis in our tradition on that very point. Yeah, on reaching kind of what we did. What I can say was in the Kunsantuktik vision teachings, we did a special practice that really that we even don't do in this 3 months retreat here on the Koderution teachings, that is specially for that to kind of retain your be able to focus your attention on anything and leave it there. So there are in the last year of the retreat, there are special practices for that, yes.
Mm. You've mentioned the 3-month retreat a couple times, and I personally
Yeah.
don't have much knowledge of it. I've heard about it. Would you say if people are interested in longer retreat, that's a great start, and it's perhaps almost a mini version of the 3-year retreat? Is that correct?
Yeah, I would definitely say that if you want to do longer retreats in the future, um, like first try a 3 months retreat here in Gomde Pyrenees. I think such a fantastic retreat. It's amazing. Um, and then, of course, I hope also that we in the future have longer triple excellence retreats, also maybe with the secret sadhana and then the later practices thereafter. So it's really good to try it out in a group first and then see how it goes.
Mhm.
And then you can check, can I do that for 3 years or not? Then
That's
imagine like
yeah, sure.
they think that you're going into the 3 months retreat, but kind of fake it, thinking that it's a 3 years retreat, and then see how it makes you feel.
Right.
Because I
That's
think
great.
in the beginning, for anybody doing a 3 years retreat, it is quite a big thing that suddenly you're really divorced, cut off from the world, and you're also at the same time you become so dependent on helpers because you're
Mhm.
not allowed to be seen by anybody, and so you become like sometimes felt like it's wonderful that people bring you food and help you and whatever, but sometimes you become so like a bedridden person, like because you have to ask for everything,
Mm.
and that sometimes I think for some people who are especially used to being quite independent, it can be quite a shock, can be quite difficult. So that also you need to give up complete control. Is also another point that one has to work with.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Um, Someone asked about reentry, after a 3-year retreat, and the way they phrased it, they said, "What implications does a retreat have for reentry in one's own career after the 3 years?" I would maybe add to that just that maybe traditionally it's often or usually ordained people or people who are sort of Dharma full time, you might say, and for Westerners, where they might be going back to you know some other kind of more lay person's life after 3 years. Do you have any stories about that or recommendations to how people might think about that?
Yeah, for me personally, in the beginning, was very difficult to be on the computer. I got really ache in my eyes, and I could even feel it had some effect on my nervous system. But now I'm much better with it. It's I got something also for the filtering of the blue light that helped. But I think I would have to ask my friends who are some of them, like some of our retreatants, they are continuing a second 3 years retreat, and they went to do some work, to find some jobs for the time. Or I would have to interview them and see how it goes, how it is going. It's definitely, I don't think, the easiest thing. But also, one accumulates so much merit in retreat that I think that kind of big backpack of merit um, makes you find what you would like then afterwards, and makes you also, I think, quite successful. Is my feeling, because in one thing is for sure, I think you become more focused on what you're doing, what, and that makes you also a better like whatever, like manager or whatever you may be, yeah, want
Yeah,
to be.
yeah. Someone asked, how are you living now? Are you most of the time alone in your retreat house? I think you sort of answered that.
Yeah.
And would you care to share anything about your daily practice routine now? And if you don't want to, that's completely okay, of course.
No, I still, as I mentioned before, I'm still very attached to the offering practices, to like the Sangso, and then also we are supposed to keep up our samayas, the Kunsang Tuktik. practices. And then also there's this really strong habit that in the afternoon I do the protectors and the red sur and all of that. In the beginning, I must say it was quite difficult. I really missed the long meditation sessions. So whenever I had time, that I would try to sit on my meditation seat and meditate. Now, right now, I mean, I still do all those, not all the sessions, but I do feel like strange when I don't do my sessions. Not strange, but I feel there's something missing. So,
Yeah.
and yes, I am. It's like I mentioned before. It's a little bit like still being in retreat, except that I work more on the Triple Excellence. That's the main difference. But
Yeah.
otherwise, there's not so much change. And that I can now go with my dogs for a walk while being seen. That's the big difference.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Someone is in the third part of the Tara's Triple Excellence program. Asked, should I wait to finish before doing 3-year retreat, or is there space within the schedule, I think, of the 3-year retreat to continue doing the TTE practice?
I would say there's not much space to do it in the 3 years retreat. No, actually. I mean, you can, for instance, what I did the contemplations of the 4 mind changings in the when that point came up in the 3 years retreat. I did the Tara Triple Excellence contemplations, so that was really nice. But there's not much time, and I don't know if it's good to. It's so hard to say. I think whether or not you have to finish first or finish later, because the practices are so profound. Even if you do a 3 years retreat, you can still, after the 3 years retreat, still continue with the rest of the Tara practices, like I think they just build on top of each other. And even though you do then a lot of texture, it might be also very helpful then later on to do some Talung practices, inner subtle practices, or breathing practices. So I think if you have the motivation and the will wish to do it, then do it. Definitely don't hesitate, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Is it really possible to concentrate for hours day by day?
I think the mind is so flexible. You can just it actually, if you train it, it can do anything, really anything. Yeah. And yeah, of course. But I mean, there's also all the development stages, and for instance, the coordination practices that we do is also in order to, in a certain way, not only, but in a certain way, to exhaust the mind and to make Rigpa more evident. So that
Exhaust
if
the
you have
mind. You mean
some,
just
yeah,
lay it out. It just can't handle anything anymore. It sort of gets out of the way.
yeah, that's kind. I like what, especially the coordination teachings do. They make the mind quite powerless, and then Rigpa can shine much more more clearly through, and that happens very much through exhausting the mind. Yeah.
That feels like a good slogan right there. Exhaust your mind. Someone asked, just were there any medical emergencies during the retreat? How does that work? If participants need regular, medical checkups or go to the dentist, they're just curious about those practicalities.
Yes, we were very lucky. We had a doctor, a French, actually she's German, but she's a French doctor here, who is a Buddhist from the Dzogchen community, who came up always like maybe every 3 months or whenever it was needed, and took checked people who were sick, sent medicine. And yeah, and if there's an emergency, definitely you can go to the hospital. Like yes, we had also 1 or 2 people who had to go to the hospital. So you're not you don't have to die in a 3 years retreat.
That's good. That's reassuring. No, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, you
Um,
can go out for that. Yeah.
Someone asked, how rigid is the daily schedule in the 3-year retreat? I think you gave us a good idea of the schedule. They're wondering, is there time available for pure on cushion meditation that is not sadhana, if they'd like to do that?
Well, luckily in our retreat we had nearly a whole year for that, nearly. Which was amazing. I mean, I wish we had the whole year. But it was maybe 8 months or something like that. And that was just like meditating on the Great Perfecture. And that was really wonderful. Yeah. So otherwise, I talked with Lama Tenzin about this. I didn't talk with Rinpoche yet about that, but there is also the tradition in Tibet. Lama said that you can actually that you only do trekture and Torah in your 3 years retreat, and that I think could be also an maybe if Rinpoche is willing, we could make something like this in the future, because some people just naturally are not so inclined to do a lot of sadhana practice and recitation and enumeration. So they are better with the other path. So I think in that way it would be good to perhaps you have two options in the future, or first do a traditional one and then go into the other one.
As a
Yeah.
second 3 years?
Second 3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And also what I wanted to say, like it sounds so much so long, 3 years, but it really isn't. Time flies by so quickly, and then you think back, okay, like if you guys think back now on your last 3 years, didn't it pass by so quickly, and what actually was achieved? So in a way, it's really it's a short time.
Mm. It feels like you were gone for a long time, but yeah.
Really. So
And yet it feels like nothing much happened here for 3 years.
yeah, so that's the thing. We think, oh, we are missing out so much if we go for 3 years away, but actually, I think we don't. Yeah. No, of course, I saw one question that said that uh, wouldn't it have been better that I did something practically, like shouldn't I have just stayed outside and done something, worked for sentient beings? And yeah, I think that's a very reasonable question. But on the other hand, I think one can really help others better if one has a certain degree of saneness, of meaning of some kind of stability, like
Yeah.
some kind of degree of um, internalizing the teachings. So I think in that way, I don't feel any regret. Although,
Yeah.
of course, I do, like when I heard, oh, when does the mandala section come out? Then I feel like, oh no, we made you wait for so long. But like I have already started to work even on our Guru Yoga already a little bit. So we're working very, very hard right now
I
on
think I
it.
can say on behalf of all the practitioners that we really rejoiced in your retreat, and we're there with you in spirit. And you were benefiting all of us. And
I'm not sure, but yes,
yeah,
it is really important for all of us to think that we can have an influence on the world. I think a 3 years retreat has a lot of influence on the world. Each our Tara Dharma practice and has a lot of influence on the world, and it's good to dedicate it for all those who suffer. I think is so important.
yeah. So it's not just by taming your mind and coming out of retreat that you can help others. You feel that doing the retreat during the retreat was helpful.
I
Would you
think
say?
I think we need to change our thinking in that way that we think, okay, sitting on a cushion and just having good thoughts doesn't affect much. I think it affects a lot. And I think the more and more people actually really work on their mind and the quicker our world will change into something really positive and really wholesome.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we'll just have maybe one more. What would you say is the most humbling aspect of doing the retreat? And also, someone asked if there were any funny moments, or was it serious all the time?
No, there were many funny moments also, really many. Now, not a particular one comes to mind, but the most humbling thing I think is that, like, I would call it certain traumas that we have from childhood, or like not like it's just sometimes they happen through birth or from your ancestors or whatever, like these kind of things are really difficult to like completely do away, like cleanse. I think like there's certain behaviors that okay, that should actually already be purified, but you still tend to do it. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's just there's certain aspects of your self, or it might be traumas, it might be negative traits that are taking so much more time to purify and to to cleanse. And there was coming back to one question somebody had about for women in the future to do retreat. I think one friend of mine who did the retreat, she said that it would be really helpful to do a man and woman retreat in the future, so to have it separate.
Mm.
I think that would be very, very helpful. Yeah. Also.
Maybe that's more typical. Is it sort of unusual that this was mixed?
I think so. I think it's more unusual. Yeah, I think it's like generally. I think it's it might be much more easier for the man to do it on their own and the women to do it on their own.
Okay, good. Well, I think we can stop there. We're so grateful to you, Heidi. Thank you so much for sharing all this information and your personal experiences with us. Really so valuable. And I do want to just mention again, I think I wasn't checking the chat, but I think maybe that PayPal link is there if people would like to offer Dana. And Heidi, would you be willing to just lead us in a dedication of merit for this wonderful session?
Oh, okay. Well, it was so wonderful to seeing all of you. Really happy. Um, I hope that your Tao practice is going well, and if you're not doing the Tao practice, that your own personal practice is doing well. And let us all dedicate this merit of like having discussed retreat and practice, that we all in the future will do retreat and gain accomplishments, gain awakening through that, and really benefit sentient beings extensively in this world. And also may that merit also change this world right now, transform it into a better a better and kinder place.